Have you ever found yourself procrastinating on a task you know is super important? Maybe you've put off that project, skipped the gym, or just kept putting things off. Again and again, you're not alone. But why do we do this? Well, procrastination is way more than just laziness or disorganization. It's rooted in some pretty deep psychology. Things like emotional regulation, brain chemistry, and even fear of change. Stick with me, and we'll break it down. Your brain is kind of like a battleground when it comes to procrastination. On one side, we have the emotional brain. It's fast, impulsive, and all about immediate comfort. Think pleasure, ease, and avoiding any kind of discomfort right now. But then, on the other side, you've got your logical, goal-oriented brain. This is the prefrontal cortex. It's all about long-term planning, future success, and understanding consequences. When you face a task that feels difficult or uncomfortable, these two parts of your brain clash. The emotional brain, led by the limbic system, often wins, pushing you toward distractions like social media or snacks instead of tackling what truly matters. Why? Well, your brain is wired to prioritize short-term rewards over long-term benefits. It's an ancient survival instinct that's tough to overcome. But what if we could stop procrastinating not just with strategies, but with wisdom from ancient texts? In the Bhagavad Gita, there's a powerful message about acting without hesitation. It says, Arjuna, he who does not follow the wheel of creation set of going in this world, sinful and sensual, he lives in pain. For the one who has no faith, there is no happiness either in this world or the next. Basically, the Gita teaches us that procrastination is a kind of resistance. It's not just avoiding tasks, it's resisting the flow of life. When we delay, we don't just miss out on productivity. We disconnect from our deeper purpose. And that, my friends, leads to emotional and spiritual discomfort. So, if procrastination isn't laziness, then what is it? It's emotional avoidance. We don't delay tasks because we're lazy. We avoid them because they trigger uncomfortable emotions like fear, anxiety, or self-doubt. The task feels too overwhelming, and instead of facing those feelings, your brain takes the easier route, avoiding it. Enter the limbic system again, which craves quick relief from stress. So, you binge-watch TV shows or scroll through social media instead of working. In the Bible, procrastination is also addressed head-on. Proverbs 12:24 says, "The hand of the diligent will rule, while the lazy will be put to forced labor." It reminds us that procrastination is really about avoiding responsibility. To break free from it, we need to focus on diligence and discipline. It's about acting, even when we don't feel like it. Another passage, Ecclesiastes 11:4, says, "Whoever watches the wind will not plant, whoever looks at the clouds will not reap." In other words, if we wait for the perfect moment, we'll be waiting forever. The key is to act despite uncertainty. Here's the thing. Today's world makes procrastination easier than ever. With constant notifications, on-demand entertainment, and social media, our brains are constantly craving quick dopamine hits. Every time we procrastinate, our brain gets flooded with these instant rewards. But this only makes it harder to handle discomfort. We start avoiding tasks because they feel slow, boring, and tough compared to the instant gratification we get from distractions. This is how we get stuck in a loop. We procrastinate, feel bad about it, then procrastinate more to avoid those negative feelings. Now let's talk about another powerful wisdom tradition, Taoism. In the Tao Te Ching, there's a teaching about which means effortless action. It says, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." This concept tells us that procrastination comes from resistance. Once you take that first step, no matter how small, you enter the flow of life and things become easier. The struggle and hesitation start to fade. It's all about trusting the process and just starting. Here's a twist. Many of us aren't just afraid of failing, we're actually afraid of succeeding. Taking action, especially on something important, can challenge our current identity. You may think, if I succeed, I'm not just dreaming about being a writer or an entrepreneur, I actually am one. And that shift, it's scary. It comes with pressure, accountability, and vulnerability. So to avoid that discomfort, we procrastinate. In this sense, procrastination isn't just a defense against failure, it's a defense against change. In Buddhism, attachment is considered a root cause of suffering. The Dhammapada teaches, we are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. Procrastination often stems from attachment to comfort and a fear of change. But when we release these attachments, we find that action becomes effortless, flowing with joy and ease. So, how do we break the cycle of procrastination? Here are some strategies that really work. 1. Shrink the task. Break it into a tiny step, like just opening the file or writing one sentence. 2. Just start. Don't wait to feel ready. Action comes before motivation. Start messy, but start. 3. Be kind to yourself. Self-compassion reduces stress and boosts motivation. 4. Reduce the friction, make distractions harder to reach and make focus easier. 6. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Focus on small wins, not perfect results. The truth is, procrastination isn't about being lazy or broken, it's about being human. Every time you delay action, you're choosing short-term comfort over long-term fulfillment. But that choice can change. You don't need to wait for motivation or the right mood, just take the next step. The key is to show up, again and again. Hope you're enjoying the content so far. If you are, consider subscribing to the channel. Now, let's dive deeper. Why do we still delay? We'll further explore the deeper roots of procrastination and how we can break free from it. Even when we understand why we procrastinate, it still holds power over us. That's because insight isn't enough. Lasting change requires rewiring how we respond to emotion, habit, and thought. To overcome procrastination, we must work with the brain, not against it, addressing the deeper subconscious patterns, emotional responses, and identity loops that silently steer our behavior. At the same time, we can draw on timeless spiritual truths that speak to our deeper need for meaning, compassion, and inner courage. Self-worth and the inner critic are among the biggest hidden drivers of procrastination. At the neurological level, procrastination often stems from the brain's threat response. When we perceive a task as tied to our value or identity, the brain can interpret it as risky. To avoid pain or judgment, we stall, subconsciously protecting our sense of self. This creates a loop. If we don't start, we don't fail. And if we don't fail, we don't confirm the fear that we're not good enough. But in the process, we lose momentum, confidence, and trust in ourselves. What helps? Train your internal dialogue. The brain responds to language, even self-talk. Instead of criticism, use compassionate accountability. You might be experiencing inner resistance, and that's okay. Gently ask yourself, what's one small step I can take right now? This helps calm the inner threat alarm and creates space for action. In the Sufi tradition, there's a story known as the parable of the water carrier. A water carrier had two large pots. One was perfect, the other had a crack and lost water along the way. The cracked pot felt ashamed of its flaw. But the water carrier smiled and said, "Look at the flowers along the path you water each day." Even when we feel broken or slow, our efforts matter. The journey may not be perfect, but it still brings beauty. Dopamine plays a key role in motivation by signaling the brain's expectation of a reward. Dopamine, the brain's motivation chemical, doesn't just respond to rewards. When we anticipate something pleasurable, dopamine levels rise, encouraging us to take action. However, if the expected reward feels too distant or uncertain, dopamine release drops, leading to procrastination. This reward prediction system shapes our choices, often pushing us toward immediate gratification over long-term goals. Now, visualize. how completing the task will feel. Imagine the sense of freedom, the relief of it being done, and the pride in your accomplishment. When you mentally experience those positive emotions in the present moment, your brain begins to release dopamine, creating a sense of reward before the task is even finished. This can help shift your motivation and make it easier to take that first step forward. You can also anchor tasks with sensory cues you genuinely enjoy, like playing a favorite song, lighting a scented candle, or sipping a warm drink. These small, pleasant rituals create a welcoming environment and signal to your brain that it's time to focus. Over time, these cues form positive associations with the task itself, making it easier to get started and even something you might look forward to. The Hebrew word hineni, here I am. In Jewish teaching, hineni, meaning here I am, is a sacred phrase rooted in the Hebrew tradition, often spoken in moments of divine encounter. Spiritually, it's a declaration of presence, surrender, and readiness. Psychologically, it reflects a powerful internal shift, the choice to face discomfort, fear, or resistance with mindful awareness. Saying hineni is like telling both your soul and your nervous system, I'm here, I'm present, and I'm willing to act. It's the moment you transcend avoidance and step into aligned action, not because it's easy, but because it's true. Practice. Start your day with a whisper to yourself, I am here, I am ready. This small ritual signals your brain to shift from hesitation to presence. Presence over perfection is important. Presence over perfection. Choosing to show up fully even when things aren't perfect. The fear of imperfection and uncertainty can keep us stuck, but presence invites connection, growth, and authenticity. It's not about getting it right, it's about being real. The brain is wired to avoid uncertainty. When a task feels high stakes, the nervous system reacts with stress. This triggers avoidance, not because we're lazy, but because our brain thinks it's protecting us. What helps? Shift your focus from outcome to process. For example, take one low-pressure step. Breathe deeply for 30 seconds to ground yourself. Open the file. Write a single sentence. Name the task. Set a 2-minute timer and tidy up whatever you can. Micro-actions reduce uncertainty and activate the brain's task completion circuitry. Progress, even messy, is how we build safety into action. Have you heard of the Zen teaching, chop wood, carry water? A Zen proverb says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The Zen proverb, chop wood, carry water, teaches the value of presence, simplicity, and mindfulness in everyday tasks. It reminds us that enlightenment or personal growth isn't found in escaping daily life, but in fully engaging with the ordinary, doing simple things with full awareness and care. Procrastination often stems from overthinking and complicating, but when we return to the small action in front of us, resistance dissolves. One technique to overcome procrastination is task anchoring. Instead of telling yourself to write the proposal, say, open the document and write one sentence. Simplicity quiets the noise. Decision-making is mentally exhausting and can lead to brain fatigue. Every choice we make drains cognitive energy. As our mental reserves deplete, the brain defaults to the path of least resistance, often resulting in inaction. So what can help? Minimize choice overload, automate routines, prepare decisions in advance, keep your to-do list focused and intentional. Mental energy is finite, protect it for what matters. Have you heard the Native American legend, The Tale of Two Wolves? A Cherokee elder tells his grandson, inside each of us lives two wolves. One represents fear, doubt, and procrastination. The other stands for courage, purpose, and action. The boy asks, which wolf wins? The elder replies, the one you feed. Every choice nourishes one side of you. Every small action is a signal. This is who I am. Practice, and each evening ask yourself, what did I do today to feed the right wolf? Our actions shape our identity, and our identity, in turn, influences our actions. creating a powerful internal feedback loop. When we consistently take action aligned with the kind of person we want to be, we reinforce that identity. For example, writing regularly makes you feel like a writer, which then motivates you to keep writing. This loop works both ways. Positive actions strengthen empowering identities, while inaction or negative habits can reinforce limiting self-beliefs. Becoming aware of this cycle helps us break free from self-sabotage and consciously build the identity we aspire to live by. Hence, don't wait for motivation. Build identity through consistency. Every step strengthens self-trust. When you attach meaning to an action, it becomes powerful. That's the power of purpose. Why meaning can overcome resistance. Tasks that feel disconnected from meaning are treated by the brain as low priority. But when linked to what we care about, growth, love, freedom, the brain's goal systems light up. For instance, I'm doing this because it brings me one step closer to the life I want to create. Purpose doesn't erase discomfort, but it gives you a reason to walk through it. Final thought, it's not just about productivity, it's about liberation. Procrastination isn't a character flaw. It's a pattern, a complex dance between your brain's survival wiring, emotional memory, and inner story. But you are not your delay. Every moment is a chance to choose again. You don't need to feel fearless, you just need to be willing. So ask yourself, what is one meaningful step I can take right now? Then take it with compassion, with courage, with presence. You are not behind, you are becoming. If this resonated, consider subscribing to Thinker's Journey for more reflections on healing, clarity, and meaningful action. Until next time, keep growing and stay true to yourself. A message to inspire by Thinker's Journey, Tihan.